the league's in a great place when these are the like
Rondell, what makes you
bad.
the best player on the planet in your estimation? Like when you the season is over or we going into the next season, you are the best. That's the best player on the planet right there. What makes you the best player in the world?
Well, I mean, I'm really looking. I do take into account what you do in the playoffs. I'm a big playoff component guy.
Mhm.
Like, if you translate in the playoffs and you dominate the playoffs, I think that tells people exactly who you are more so than pretty much anything else. My thing for Luka, and which kind of something that I've had in my mind for the entirety of the season is that yes, Jokic and Luka had similar skill sets, but the fact that Luka is a guard and able to be an elite scorer and elite scoring threat from the perimeter, basically the moment he cross half court, you have to double him. I think that is just way more impactful, in my opinion, at the very least. Now, Jokic has certain aspects that that's undeniable, being as big as he is and being as great of a elite threat as he is behind the inside the 3-point line. But Luka being that an individual that no matter where he is on the court on the offensive side of the ball is an elite threat. That's what puts Luka over Jokic for me.
Does it? I'm sorry, Mars. You had a question.
No, you
Because
got
I was going to ask you, Mars. What makes you the best player on the planet in your estimation?
Being better than everyone at basketball. I think being the most impactful player in the league. Impact is all subjective. Like to me, what is most impactful is different to someone else's view of most impactful. But for me, when you're on the floor, does your team have a better chance of succeeding than when you're not on the floor? Right. And that goes for most great players. And I understand, like, if you have terrible teammates around you, you're probably not going to win. But I can still acknowledge how great you are individually as a player. And then it's also about skills. What skills do you have that I view as valuable to great teams? I think there's some people who are great for playing on bad teams, and not just like empty stats, but I mean like they have skills that are great for carrying a bad team to be okay. Like great isolation scoring, ball dominance. What other things would be great for bad teams? If you're a great rim protector, but you can't do much outside of that, you can probably make a bad defense a good defense in the regular season. Rudy Gobert, you can probably do that. But and then there's skills that are better for high level teams, which is defensive versatility, playing without the basketball, shooting, passing. Those things get better when you have better teammates. Passing is always more valuable when you have good teammates to give the ball to. So I like guys who can pass. If you have terrible teammates, passing isn't as valuable because they probably need you to shoot. But I can still see a guy on a bad team who's a great passer. If he's passing to Klay Thompson instead of to Asar Thompson, the passing becomes better, right? Exactly. So like I can understand it's about the skill set and not just about what's around you, which is why I knew Daniel Gafford was a good player, despite what was going on in Washington because of his skill set. I knew you give him a player who can actually create for him, and you have him as a rim protector, you're in a solid spot. But in Washington, it's cooked. So like I think his skill set, impact, how your play style projects onto great teams. So I don't need to see, because sometimes your team just isn't built well. I'm not going to hold that against you, like KG, Giannis for early parts of his career, etc. So all of those things into one culminates into who I think is the best. And right now I've been consistent. I think Jokic is the best player in the world. Mm-hmm. But I've also said I think the top four should be inarguable, in my opinion. If you don't think the four best players in the world are any order of Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, and Luka, I think you're wrong. And I understand Embiid because of the health. If someone says not Embiid, leave him out because of health, I get it. But if you just say he's not as good as those guys, I disagree with you. But the health bit, I get it. But Jokic, Giannis, and Luka have to be in everyone's top four, in my opinion. And I think it's crazy that everyone is just forgetting about how good Giannis is because we haven't seen him in the playoffs because he's been hurt. I think that's ridiculous. And he's going to remind you guys next year that he's in these conversations because Giannis is one of the best defenders in the league, one of the best scorers in the league, and his playmaking has developed every year. So just because he can't shoot, put some respect on Giannis' name, please, because he's great. And that's why I think the league is in a great spot because we have four players who are playing at all-time levels all at once. Now, Embiid is more regular season because he gets hurt in the postseason. But Giannis, Luka, Jokic playing at all-time levels. Now, where they rank all-time, I don't care. But they're playing at all-time levels that we haven't seen. And I want to give them all credit for how great they are. But for me, best player, who impacts their team the most, your skill set, all of those things. So right now I've got Jokic, but I'm fine with whoever you guys have.
Jalen is in addition to that, does how long you do it matter, or is it just a year-to-year thing?
Well, I think it's so if you've been, so I could say that's an interesting question. So if you've been, let's say, Without a doubt, the best player for a 4 or 5 year stretch. One down year, you could say, where another.
That's
player
what I'm
has a
saying.
year.
And I want you to
so
stop right
20.
there.
So you can have 2015 LeBron bad year, but like it's like
I'm
he's
just-
LeBron. And
Yeah,
I
he's
want
the young guy.
I don't want you to lead. I want you to stay right there.
Yeah.
Like if he's been the best player for 4 or 5 years, how did he get there? Like, because I don't think that you just show up one day
No,
and be the
100%,
best
yeah.
player on the planet. Like,
Yeah.
how did he get there?
I mean, to what Mar said, it's like the impact, skill set, playoff transition, playing well in the playoffs, doing all that. That's the combination of everything you look at, and he was clearly the best player in the league, without a doubt. But I do think now with these 4 guys, in a lot of ways, look, I think Luka is the best, but like Mar said, those 4 guys are like right here. Like it's not some huge gap between the guys. Depends on kind of what you value. You can make a case for Jokic. You can make a case if you really value defense. I completely understand if you think Giannis is the best player in the league. Like there's no argument for it. Like you value defense, like cool. I get it. He's the best player in the league without a doubt. Joel Embiid, we saw what he can do when he's on. He just needs that playoff transition. The one thing I will add to what I factor in now, especially after this postseason, and even kind of looking back at some of the things that happened to Giannis, is how these players adjust to playoff defensive adjustments. Because clearly in the playoffs, teams come in with a game plan to quote unquote stop you, especially when you're the guy, and your ability to adjust and kind of work around that and still be effective, I think is a big deal. And obviously with Giannis, them, quote unquote, building a wall at the rim definitely hurt him in some playoff series. But I think again, so I think I'm just giving Luka the edge because I think he's able to make that adjustment the best out of those guys. Go ahead, Mars.
I agree with everything about the adjustments on one of those things and how you counter those. Do you feel the same way about teams making offensive adjustments against you, and then now they're targeting on you on defense, and how you deal with that? Because Boston is going to present a new challenge that Dallas haven't seen defensively. And I'm sure even the biggest Luka fans understand they are targeting him. 1,000%.
Yeah.
Boston are targeting him.
Mhm.
They have 4 guys who can all dribble, create, shoot, and Luka's going to have to guard one of them. Like realistically, he's going to have to guard one of them.
Right.
They're gonna target him. They're gonna bring him into the action. You can pre-switch, but they can bring up another person. If Lucas struggles to deal with that, which I don't think, I think is reasonable to assume he might, because he's still not the best defender. If he struggles to deal with that, are you going to evaluate Luka differently, or have you gone into the series understanding that's a possibility, and even with that, you still know who Luka is and he's the best, regardless of understanding that that's possible?
I think the impact of him, let's say, switching and him getting torched on defense, the impact of that has on the game, if it's done really well, I'm going to have to look at that. If he's the reason, if him getting cooked on defense is the reason they're losing a 102 to 100 game, and he cost them multiple times he got cooked, I'm like, all right, then Luka has to kind of step up and not be obviously great, not a lockdown defender, but just put an effort, body up. If they make the shot, that's great, but just contest, use some physicality, because Luka has good size. A lot of the times people realize he has good size to, contest well, recover, and all that. So just do that, it'll be fine.
It's the player choice way. Yeah, them boys don't get it started. The player choice way. Yeah, the player choice way. Come and switch lanes into the player choice way.